story that I'll throw in there, just a little silly side note. Once we moved the ring out into the woods, it was like, obviously because it was in the woods, it was a wooded area, and myself and Jeff, we spent a weekend when we were off, off from school, and we took a bush axe and a hatchet, and we cleared out plenty of space to put the ring and put the arena. We even built a couple of bleachers where we didn't really have fans that came to watch us, but just in case they did, they had a place to sit. So actually, if you weren't wrestling, I think you were required to sit out there and cheer for the good guy. That was the deal. But we cleared off this area before we moved the ring out there, and we had this huge brush pile, and it was during the heat of the summer. It was around, I want to say around July, where it's really, really hot down here in North Carolina. And my friend Michael Klaus, who was over, who had actually started wrestling with us in the TWF at that time, he was over there, and I said, hey man, well, we're ready to put the ring and get the whole arena together now that we've cleared out this area. I said, we need to burn this brush pile. I said, Jeff and I have stacked everything up, and it's dead and it's ready to be burned. And he's like, okay, cool. So he gathers everything, pushes it together, and I remember it was a pretty mild day. There wasn't a lot of wind and whatnot, but I started that brush pile on fire, and it started burning real good, and it was real dry. It was me being an idiot because it hadn't rained in months at this point, and the brush pile is burning real good. It's about to go down. All of a sudden, a gust from the heavens comes down, and it just hits the brush pile, man. And the next thing I remember is just fire was all around the woods and everywhere. There was just everywhere you look, it was fire. And I was like, oh my God. And the first thing I told Mike is we got to put this out before my dad gets home. And at this point, I was probably 15 maybe. I didn't have a license yet. So we got to put this out before my dad gets home. And he's like, okay, cool. I'll go get some water. And the house was probably a fifth of a mile away. So he sprints off, taking off to the house to do that. I break down a tree, and I'm swatting. And I remember I just had on a pair of shorts. I'm swatting away at all the fire. And I'm just getting. I got so burnt that day. It was brutal. I was just I looked like a big red piece of meat, with the exception of just where I had my little shorts on. I was white here and just charred red everywhere else. And Mike runs back out with one bucket of water and goes, dink. And it's like an inferno. There's acres of fire, and he goes, dink. And he's like, I'll go get some more. And I was like, man, we can't. So we got to call the fire department. And I went and called the fire department, and they came out. And it's funny, I was just begging them, I was like, please, can you get this done before my dad gets home? He wasn't going to see it at that point. My dad shows up at the house, and there's 5 fire trucks out there, and they had to dig this huge ditch around. It burnt an acre of land, 2 acres of land, which is a lot. And wow, that was I didn't hear the end of that for a long time. And that was one of the few times that I got in trouble and Jeff didn't, because usually he was the one that screwed up.